first ever preview match video, and I am joined by Mr. Jose Nunez, who reports Philadelphia Union. How are you doing today, good sir?
I'm doing very well, thank you. I appreciate you inviting me, considering me for this. I'm probably one of the smallest voices that talks about the Union, but frankly, appreciate the invitation. What an interesting time for the Union to have to go to Austin and play to, I don't know, redeem their pride. Honestly, after everything that happened last night with the Champions Cup, and I guess for those that are unaware, the Union got destroyed 6-0 at the hands of Pachuca out in Mexico.
I have a colleague who is already into Liga MX and he's Venezuelan, so whenever he saw Salomon Rondo score the hat trick and the assist, he could not stop celebrating in our Discord channel. But yeah, I mean, it sucks to see the Union was like, I would say, one of the favorites to win it. But when you go to Pachuca and Mexico, it's never that easy. Trust me.
Yeah, it's interesting, right? When you take a look at that side of the bracket, I know we're here to talk about Austin and the Union, but I think the context of what just happened yesterday is so I don't know, helpful to better understand what's coming up on Saturday. At I guess it's 8:30 Eastern time, 7:30 your time. I think I can't remember exactly what it is.
Usually with it is 7:30, but with season pass, it usually push it to 7:39 Central
Gotcha.
Time. Yeah.
Yes. So the Union just absolutely shellacked by Salomon Rondon, who obviously to keep him off the score sheet at home at Subaru Park was one thing,
Hmm.
but to keep him off the score sheet for two straight games, with the second one out at what was it, Estadio Hidalgo,
It
would
is.
have been an unbelievable feat. But listen, the Union bow out of that competition and now focus solely on having to figure out Leagues Cup and the league. So yeah, I guess probably a perfect segue to start talking about this Saturday.
So Saturday is the first official match between the two clubs, Austin FC and Philadelphia Union. As remember, y'all, two last year we played y'all in the preseason, which we ended up losing 3-2. But a month ago we played y'all at Florida, in which we surprisingly beat Philadelphia Union by the goals of CJ Fodry and I believe it was Sebastian Driussi who scored in that match against y'all. But it is really interesting that we're not playing at Philadelphia. Y'all coming to Q2, what once was a fortress, but now it's just like anybody can just beat Austin over here. But now Philadelphia Union share the same points as Austin with 2 points in the same spot, 11th place. But my question to you is this: was this a dream start for Philadelphia to be 11th with just 2 points?
I mean, absolutely not. I think that sort of tells the tale, right? To be in 11th place and have to deal with the defeat that was Pachuca, it's just an awful start. And Jim Curtin, head coach, who has been there for 10 years at this point, I think, was very open about it early on into the season, saying, the Champions League or the Champions Cup, whatever you want to call it, Champions Cup is obviously the proper name, but Champions League for so long, is both a blessing and a curse, right? It's a blessing in terms of getting your players experience against international players, getting experience of going to these very difficult venues and having to perform and learn from those experiences. But also, it's a double-edged sword in terms of the Champions Cup being a huge drain in terms of your depth, which obviously is very difficult to work through in MLS with the MLS rules that everybody
Mm-hmm.
has to work through. So having a Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, all throughout leading into the final, and obviously there's like a smaller break here and there after the quarterfinals, I believe.
Mm-hmm.
It is just such a drain for a team, especially speaking solely about Philadelphia, that just doesn't spend to bring in reinforcements. If anything, this year more than anything, letting players walk away in terms of Joaquin Torres going out on loan to Universidad Católica of Chile, having players like Andres Perea going actually full transfer out to New York City after his successful loan last year. So it's not a great start, but the hopeful in me says that they will go ahead and sort out something now that they are out of that competition.
Yeah, I could say the same thing. Like we've been in that same situation last season which Austin FC, which we all know what happened in 2023, and when we were knocked out of CCL, we had to focus on playing, Wednesday matches and Saturday matches. And the only reason too is our rotational squad. Is the thing is that Austin FC in 2023 didn't have a lot of depth because we were also worried with injured players when we had to improvise players to play in such certain areas, like Alex Spring, who is a midfielder, played as a center back the entire season. Again, I know the pain and the about our players on our team playing midweek games and weekends. It just drains them out easily. Like, it's not easy. Like, we're gonna be like the freshest team on Saturday, then y'all being like, rotational squad, if we're gonna see rotated squad at Q2 on Saturday.
Yeah, and that's one of the main questions, right? I know we're going to start talking about the different pieces of information you wanted to touch on today, but what squad shows up to the Union, right? They were very fortunate before the Pachuca game that the Seattle match was postponed due to that massive amount of rain that came down at Subaru Park. That obviously didn't help because they ended up getting destroyed 6-0. But who do the Union send out to try to redeem themselves, right? Or is this where Jim Curtin takes a stand and says, "Listen, you did not perform. You did not perform. You did not perform. You're going to go ahead and sit and watch from the bench." Though it gets even more complicated with the amount of players that are either right at this match or shortly after this match who go away for international duty. Andre Blake with Jamaica hasn't been officially announced, but I don't know that there's a Jamaican team that's 100% without Andre Blake. Damian Lowe, additionally, our center back who has sort of cemented himself as the starter, also with Jamaica. Daniel Gastag, officially called in by Hungary for potentially his 24th and 25th cap. Mm-hmm. And I have a good inkling, nothing official, but Jack McGlynn and Nate Harriel, our left mid Jack McGlynn, right back Nate Harriel, both are more than likely going to be called in for the Olympic match preparation, both on the 22nd against Guinea and the 25th against Thierry Henry's France. So all of that to say, Jim Curtin has a very difficult choice to make, or choices to make, for who shows up to Q2 and take on Mr. Wolf's side.
Yeah, because I have here that since you said I follow you on X, or known as Twitter, which before I get to this, I started following you because I saw the reports about Brandon Craig, when he was still with Austin FC, and we were all here criticizing Wolf as to why he didn't start the guy. But on my list here, I see my thing is Philadelphia Union starters or rotating squad against Austin FC, because on yesterday you said Carranza came as a substitution player, Jesus Bueno was also subbed in, and Jack Elliott. Then the other three players on my list was El Brujo Martinez, who started, then Gazdag, who started, and Mikel Ure. Do you think that the substitutions played against Pachuca will play against Austin FC on Saturday, and those who started will get a resting, be on the bench and come in the second half?
Yeah, that'll be interesting. I mean, let me just clarify this. Jose Martinez, per Jim Curtin, I was able to ask him this after the match yesterday. Jose Martinez actually, requested to come off the field. He wasn't feeling well, so he had I joked about it yesterday. We did a halftime and a post game show. Jim Curtin tried to have him have his flu game, right, like Michael Jordan.
Yeah,
and it just did not work because he just had to come out at half. So I'm not sure what happens with Jose Martinez, but the rest, it'll be interesting. Jesus Bueno, I could have sworn that would have started over Alejandro Bedoya yesterday. Carranza, I don't know how Jim takes this match. Obviously, I think the only reason that he went in yesterday was because of just trying to chase the match, being down 2, and try to get something. So Julian, I think if Jim Curtin had it his way yesterday, Julian Carranza would have just rested all match, but that just wasn't the situation. So maybe he's one who sits out, but we'll know more on Friday when Jim does his press conference, his match day -1 press conference. Mm-hmm. So more to that point. But your train of thought there's maybe not too far off. It'll be really interesting, again, especially with some of these players having to maybe not necessarily depart for camp just yet. I mean, the earliest game out of the bunches that I mentioned to you would be, I believe, Jamaica and USA's on the 21st.
Yes.
So I don't think that teams or players would be released 8 days ahead of time. But if anything, right after this match, some of them are going to Austin with a bag ready to go to the different camps that they have to report to. So again, it's so difficult to predict in MLS who's starting and who's not, unless you're a team like the Union. But even with the Union this week, it's just so difficult to try to predict what the heck Jim Curtin's going to do.
Next question is Austin FC going to play with or without Sebastian Driussi? And go ahead.
You tell me. I don't know what's going on with Sebastian. I think he had either an injury or something was going on with Sebastian Driussi, right? Something's up with him as of late.
So a day before the first game against Minnesota, it was said that Driussi suffered right hamstring irritation, which it was questionable, and we thought maybe it's just a little knock. It will, probably be like a week or two, but sources that I know, but they said 2 more weeks he's going to be out. So we've been kind of struggling without Driussi. Our midfield, to me, is kind of incomplete without him because we started 2 different formations in the midfield. We had, obviously, Venezuelan Dani Pereira. Dani Pereira was played mostly right there to support the offense as a 10 against Seattle Sounders, but it didn't work out great. Then we had Josh Wolf's son, Owen Wolf, playing the midfield as well, trying to be like Driussi in the first game, which it didn't work out great for us. The one player I would say that did an impressive job that surprised all of us was Diego Rubio against St. Louis City last Saturday.
Well, it would be a great game for her to come back again, going up against a Union team that's been knocked down and kicked and punched multiple times over out in Mexico. This would be a wonderful opportunity to try to bring someone up to speed. And frankly, I think that Austin is not Austin without a Driussi who's motoring and pushing and moving around in the midfield. And who knows, maybe a Jose Les Martinez team shows up on Saturday in terms of the Union, and hopefully he's feeling okay. I'm never more disappointed or gutted, I guess, for players when they get called up to do international work with their teams and just somehow due to injury or whatever it may be, they miss the opportunity. So I hope that Jose's feeling better, but I also, I do want to see a good game, and I hope that Driussi is on the field. It would be a shame to not see that matchup. Also,
relating to, international call-ups, we had Dani Pereira called up with the Venezuelan national team last week, I believe, and he was going to miss out the match against Orlando City for us next week. So we might see him get minutes on the field, but probably coming in or coming off the field. I would say, too, like you said, Driussi completes a team. That's basically what we all have to say. Driussi is like our number 10, but I would say with a midfield, Diego Rubio is a perfect replacement from Sebastian Driussi because let's segue to the next thing, the defense. Do you think your defense will be the same back 4 as the one in Pachuca, or will it be a different back 4?
I think, and that's again another difficult question because if I'm an idiot, so please take it with a grain of salt. But that to say, I am not Jim Curtin, though. Man, after that performance, and I encourage you, if you have it, watch the game as a fan of Austin, watch the game that the Union just completely blew against Pachuca, because that's exactly how you beat the Union, right? You press them, you make them uncomfortable, you force them to make mistakes, and those mistakes happen just the way that the Union try to do them on their end when they try to play offensively, right? Mm-hmm. They pressure center backs to make mistakes. Yesterday, Jack Elliott, Damian Lowe, Jacob Glesnes, every single one of them made many, many mistakes that led for Salomon Rondon, Idrisi, Eric Sanchez, Pedrosa, I think, is another player who is for Pachuca in the midfield, to just have a field day, collecting balls unchallenged in the middle, going wide, getting the ball across, goal, etc., etc., etc. So to predict a back 4 after a game like Pachuca is extremely difficult, though I think it's fair to say that maybe he'll try to play low just to get some more minutes prior to him departing for international duty. but it also could be a statement by Jim to say, I'm gonna put on some of these other players that don't typically play, like a Makanya, who was signed last year from I think it's Bosch out in South Africa. So who knows what he does? Again, so difficult to predict after such a terrible loss yesterday. Changes the entire paradigm of Saturday.
Yeah, now that you told us the blueprint on how to beat the defense of Philadelphia Union, that's what led us to what was a really interesting game against St. Louis, because Austin FC, Josh Wolf changed his system. Like, he gave it up and said, all right, instead of back passing, we're just going to pressure St. Louis no matter what, because that was the best thing about him, is like, change is good, and that's what we didn't expect from him against St. Louis. So what we did against St. Louis was, St. Louis is the type of team who does pressure you, but if you do it in a reverse psychology way, you pass them the ball and they're like, oh, what am I supposed to do? Because they don't usually play in the back the entire time. So if we do the same thing against Philadelphia Union, the same method as we did to St. Louis, by pressuring y'all, then I think it'd be a much more interesting game this Saturday against y'all.
I agree. There's no other way than to call it a complete failure yesterday, and you're right. The Union completely showed how to be beaten. Granted, the quality of Pachuca cannot be understated. They are a very talented team with players that are just unbelievable. Again, Salomon Rondon, a Venezuelan legend. Idrisi.
Eric Sanchez.
A $10 million player, Idrisi, who has European ties all along from Morocco.
Mm-hmm.
Just an unbelievable set of players that they had. Not to say that Austin doesn't have it, but it also has to be said that Pachuca is somewhat of a special team, right? Especially after winning the Clausura, or what was it, the Apertura last year. As well as, I think they're A in fourth place, but B, I think like the best goal differential this year. So not to say that Austin doesn't have that or they're not capable of that, but it's just to underscore just how good that team is. And listen, if Austin can copy paste what Pachuca did, Godspeed to the Union, because it completely broke them.
Yeah, about Pachuca, let me talk about them. Is since I watched Liga MX from the start of me watching soccer, like in '06, Pachuca is the key to them winning is their midfield, and that's what we saw against Philadelphia Union. Their midfield leads them to success, no question about it. Our defenders right now, let me talk about Julio Cascante and Matt Hedges. I didn't think Cascante and Matt Hedges will have a really good, solid start to this 2024 season. I thought it was going to be another, because Leo Weissen, another player who came back from injury, is injured again. But with Cascante and Hedges, I would say those two, to me, I'm much more comfortable now. There were some moments, too, back in the middle of 2023 about Matt Hedges that we were all worried because he was having bad performances. But so far with Austin in this 24 season, he's doing a better job and improvement every game. Plus, another player who I'd like to mention, who to me, it's my own take. Even though Austin FC plays entirely with a back four, this player makes us look like a back five, and that's Joka Valencia. Joka Valencia is a player who we were trying to figure out how to put him there. Sometimes Wolf will put him in a pivot with Danny Pereira all the time in 2023. It was mostly Pereira stays in the back, and Joka Valencia supports the offense, which it didn't work out great. For the last 4 to 5 games of the 2023 season, Joka Valencia found his spot, and that was him playing the back five, supporting two of our center backs. And this season itself, he's proven to us that he found his comfortable spot being a back five, somebody defending with the center backs, and thus, like I said, making them like a complete back five. Because that's, like, to me, he's an imaginary center back rather than be in the midfield.
Yeah, and the Union need to figure out how to plug in some of these holes again in the middle that are just so. Listen, the Union have allowed, what was it? I think the stat was 15 or so goals in 5 games. Like, that is not a great record so far. So hopefully they're able to figure it out, and maybe, I don't know, maybe this is I'm taking my press hat off for a second, but putting my fan on for a second here. Maybe Austin is the team to sort of get the Union season kickstarted, right? Maybe this is a game where they come and perform 2-0, 3-0 away from home and kickstarts the season. Who knows? But seems very unlikely right now with the mood amongst the fan base.
For us to kickstart our season, it hasn't been the dream start. We've been like at least 6 months without a win at Q2. Like you said, we need a kickstart too. Like, it's gonna be a tough month. We already played St. Louis, we play y'all, we play Orlando City, and at the end of the month we play FC Dallas, and that's where it starts our like mini tournament, which is Copa Texas. But let's segue to a mini question: do you think the Union have an easy month than Austin FC does?
Gosh, that's difficult to really say, right? Austin this weekend, then Portland, then back home against Minnesota. So Minnesota maybe being the easiest out of all of them, frankly, and that's even questionable because Minnesota has also always been a difficult team to play against. They're just very stubborn. So I honestly I don't believe that in MLS there's ever an easy week or easy month just because of how unpredictable this league is. Right, one day the number one seed can lose to the very bottom of the table, and then the next week they could be scoring 6 goals against the best team or the second best team in the league. So I don't know, man. It's always so difficult to predict this league.
Yeah, that's true because we thought that Minnesota, the first home opener, we thought new coach and without their two key players, which was one of them, Emmanuel Reynoso. We all thought we are going to win this match against Minnesota, but unfortunately, that was the same time that Driussi was injured. So we didn't win the game. The problem about too is that Austin FC tends to be too stubborn to see if they're a full 90-minute team, but they're always shows this like they're showing their good side in the second half. But that's something we're getting tired of. Like last week was an improvement. You're a full 90-minute match. But the question was that, for me, was that against St. Louis, how do you defend the last 15 minutes? Because Austin FC, Josh Wolf parked the bus way too early, and that's something you don't do.
No, and honestly, it's obviously something the Union tried to do yesterday, and it did not work because all they needed was one goal, whether it was to tie or to go ahead, and they just couldn't do it. So, yeah, the Union are not by any stretch of the imagination masters of sneaking their way out of games or parking the bus. More often than not, they end up getting snake bitten.
But like I said, Austin FC should be smart not to park the bus against a really rotated squad of Philadelphia Union.
If it's even rotated, honestly, Jim Curtin could be just so stubborn and send everybody else that he just put out against Pachuca out there, and it's his A squad who obviously did not put up a good fight. I guess. Let me just say right now, my kid is learning what ads are. My YouTube Premium ran out just yesterday, and now he's experiencing ads on a first-hand basis. So I apologize for him shouting.
That's all good.
Nonetheless, gosh, that the lineup prediction is just impossible at this point without having to talk to him or getting to talk to him on Friday, I should say.
Let's segue to the midfield now. Like I said, I have a colleague of mine who also covers Austin FC. He's Venezuelan, and he is waiting to see Jesus Bueno and El Brujo Martinez against Nani Pereira. Of those two players, who do you think is much more like a leader in the midfield? Jesus, El Brujo Martinez or Jesus Bueno?
Has to be El Brujo Martinez. I mean, he has more experience and caps or appearances both for the Union, but for the Venezuelan national team. So without Martinez, the Union do frankly feel like a lost team, right? He is sort of the heart of that entire team, and really more often than not, the game plan revolves around him in a way in terms of putting out fires when the Union are starting to press forward on a counterattack and it just doesn't work and the opponent starts coming down. Martinez is usually there to try to put the fire out and let the Kai Wagners of the world that's left backs and the Nate Harriels of the world on right back to make their way back and take back shape and formation. Never mind if it's a set piece, you usually have a Jose Martinez who's shoring up the back while Glesnes or Lowe or Elliott are up there, who I think all of them are at least above 6'1".
Mm-hmm.
So Jose Martinez is 100% the heart of this team, and without him, the Union just don't function too well, though credit has to be given to Jesus Bueno, a player who put up or put his head down, I should say, and worked through being an MLS Next Pro, being with the Union 2 all the way to being rewarded last year with his appearances during Leagues Cup, and then ultimately getting this new contract extension for 2 years with an option, I believe, this offseason. So he's here to stay in Philadelphia for a while unless there's some sort of trade.
The same applies for Danny Pereira because Danny Pereira is already at that point where the question is, should we sell Danny Pereira? Because Danny Pereira is a baller to all of us in Austin FC. Like I give my flowers to him. The way he plays is he's trying to like we see him more as a player in the 10 to support our offense, but Wolf has this idea struck into his mind like you stay in the back and defend the back four. But no, since with Joja Valencia taking that spot, we're asking to Wolf, why don't you start him mostly as a 10 or at least as the offensive pivot in the midfield? Again, without Bruco Martinez, I do see that like just with us with Driussi, we're an incomplete squad. We ask ourselves who exactly is going to replace that 10 or that, box to box midfielder. For us, we try to put Owen Wolf or Danny Pereira, but with last week's performance, Diego Rubio puts out a hell of a performance against St. Louis, and his link up with Jazzy's artist was beyond like we saw them like in their prime time, like prime years.
I gotta tell you, I completely forgot that Zardes was A, still in the league, B, with Austin. So what a flashback for a guy who basically made his bones in Columbus and all of his appearance with the national team.
Who do you see as the number 10 and number 9 for Philly?
Who do I see as number 9 and number 10 for Philly for Saturday? That's a good question. Well, number 9 typically would be an Alejandro Bedoya. Alejandro Bedoya. A Julian Carranza, right? Someone who's maybe at 11, whatever, but is out there front and center. You could also argue that Daniel Gastek sort of plays that role too. Though Quinn Sullivan has been so dynamic that he can play out on the side, he can play central, he can sort of do it all, but certainly for number 10, Daniel Gastag, and if he's not in, I don't know who does it since the Union decided to loan out Joaquin Torres out to Universidad Católica, who was the, what everybody thought was going to be someone who's going to get a chance at that number 10 spot. So for Saturday, I would say as a number 10, Gastag, if not Gastag, is going to be a by committee type of situation, and then in terms of a striking forward, if Carranza is not healthy, which I imagine he isn't, it'll probably be a Quinn Sullivan / Mikel Ua sort of partnership out front.
Yeah, for Austin FC, we've been having issues where our attack can segue to that now, is that our wingers. The thing is, Emiliano Rigoni, our DP since 2022. We thought, this is the guy too, let me address to you. Driussi put his word and say, this is my guy, and to replace and add more depth in that winger spot. Rigoni hasn't shown us that he's that DP that we got him for $4 million from Sao Paulo in the summer 2022. Is that Rigoni, I don't know what, like Josh Wolf has these tools and Rigoni to build them. We have something from him, but we need one more part to make him that complete DP, but it's no luck for us yet. But I can say that Rigoni can outplay Ethan Finley no matter, even though it is a bad thing to say, we play better without Rigoni on the field, and it showed to us against St. Louis City last week.
Yeah, that's always difficult, right? When these teams make these heavy investments on players and they just don't pan out, which the Union know all about that. Roland Alberg, the list goes on. Marco Fabian.
Dude. Marco Fabian, let me just cut you in there. He was, to this day, the heart and soul of Chivas back in 2011 to 2015. Because this is before his drinking days. Also, what I've seen from my point of view.
Yeah, no, I plenty of stories that I can't confirm or deny about him enjoying himself in the city of Philadelphia. In fact, even like flying overnight to go somewhere and then come back and enjoy himself and show up to practices, maybe in not great condition. I don't know. Again, just stuff I've heard that can by no means confirming whatsoever. But yeah, the Union know all about getting involved in these high transfers for the Union, which the record transfer for the Union is like almost $3 million. So it's very, very low in comparison to what other teams do. But getting a DP that doesn't work out is again, Freddie Adu was one of the Philadelphia Union's DPs way back when. So listen, it stinks I'm really hopeful that the report that Tom Bogert put out today in terms of
Exactly.
decoupling the U22 initiative from the DP count is a huge move for MLS, and people who follow my work and follow my podcast, etc., are all so aware of the fact that I've been calling for this for at least a season and a half at this point. It is just such a move to foster and enhance and move the league towards becoming younger, but also it's no secret that Union is a stepping stone at the Union. The MLS is a stepping stone for a lot of these players. Think Thiago Almada, think
Mm-hmm.
about Jose Almiron, think about some of these players that come and play and then bounce. Brandon Aronson to talk about the Union, right, in terms of using the league as a way to get to Europe, etc. So decoupling that rule or those roster spots, I think it's going to be awesome. It's a shame that they're waiting till now, well into the Messi era.
Yeah. When I first saw that, we have three DPs for Austin FC. We have Sebastian Driussi, no question about it. He deserves it. We give him the flowers for what he did in 2022. The next player is, like I mentioned to you, is Emiliano Rigoni, who, again, to all of us, he's no DP. He's just an average player who has, people have said Josh Wolf is going to figure him out. He's going to put his best. But no, I haven't seen nothing from Rigoni for 2 seasons. I remember the game against Seattle Sounders. The guy said, a commentator, Rigoni has been quiet. I tweeted out saying, sir, it's been 2 years and Rigoni has been quiet with us. And the next player is Alex Rink, which surprisingly was given the DP tag. But when that report about Tom Bogert said about, the potential DP, I can say that all of us are saying that Alex Ring is saving that DP spot warm if case we buy him out and bring in a new one here to Austin FC.
Yeah, I mean, union-wise, you think about Daniel Gastag, Mikel Ua, and Julian Carranza, and it's no secret that Julian Carranza, free agent at the end of the season in December, very, very interesting situation, not being sold this past off season. Gonna go ahead and wait to see what happens on July 1 forward. The player, with the fact that there's 6 months or fewer left in his contract, he can negotiate without the club's consent, work something out with a club outside of the United States or even within the United States, or walk for free come December, hopefully after the Philadelphia Union have an MLS Cup under their belt.
Open Cup to Leagues Cup conversation.
Yeah, I believe that the players, most of them, are actually leaning more towards Leagues Cup, and mainly because of, it's no secret, the bonuses that the players receive for Leagues Cup is higher than what the Open Cup pays in terms of bonuses, and that you can find all this information on the CBA that the Union signed not too many years ago. But the players are rewarded better through Leagues Cup in terms of pay. And again, not to reiterate or beat the horse here, but it's very telling when the players' union is not interested in getting involved in terms of making a statement or putting out a communication about their disappointment, etc. And and I'll maybe stop it by and leave it at here at this point. Having talked to a former player who's now retired that actually won the U.S. Open Cup about the entire situation, he actually says, yeah, no one really cares about the U.S. Open Cup for what it's worth, and he's won it. So just sharing that anecdote.
Find it really critical about Leagues Cup because of one thing is that it's never played in Mexico, and that's the thing too. Like everybody on Twitter, like for example, they said that this is why Leagues Cup every MLS teams can, take a massive shit to Liga MX teams. But if it was played in Mexico, like Liga MX, like why it's never played in Mexico, but it's just because, and sport wise, Mexican teams can beat you MLS teams in, in that country.
Yeah, it's yeah. And first and foremost, let me go ahead and say this. I can't believe I didn't say this, but congratulations to Austin FC2 for winning their tournament, winning their league last year, or whatever you want to call it. And congratulations to you guys for getting someone like Chris Harmon. I broke those news not too long ago, him moving from New York Red Bull Academy to be the assistant coach over at Austin FC2. An incredible talent that you are all getting. So awesome stuff. But Listen, if these games or some of these games were played in Mexico, I absolutely would agree with you, or agree with you. You know, it would be such an interesting dynamic to the tournament if you actually got to see, like we did last night, these MLS teams actually have to face the you know the fans, the atmosphere, the stadiums in Mexico, which they are just not used to. I don't care how many times you go and play in Atlanta. Playing in Atlanta or in Charlotte is not the same as playing at, at Club America or Chivas or Pachuca, right? Those are different animals altogether.
Now, the prediction lineup part, we spoke about with a little bit of technical difficulties about Austin FC playing the first time. Spoke about how we're gonna you giving us the blueprint of how we're supposed to beat Philadelphia just by pressure them, going back and forth about the defense, the midfield, and our attack. But what's your prediction 11 for this Saturday?
For the Union, I guess I envision Kai Wagner, who's a player that never stops. Jakob Glesnes, who has no international duty whatsoever. I wouldn't be surprised if somehow Jake Elliott gets a starting job after the disaster of a second half that he had over the yesterday. And Nate Harriel has been crushing it, and I fully suspect that he will be called to the Olympic practice matches in March in the next coming weeks. Midfield, I envision that it will be Jose Martinez, then Jack McGlynn, again, who's going to go with the Olympic team, I would imagine, and then on the right, probably a Bedoya. And then a Gazdag, number 10, and a Mikel Ua and Chris Donovan. I don't think Carranza sees the field this week, as they probably try to really heal him before throwing him, into a Portland match that's going to be very, very difficult.
For Austin FC, Brad Stuber, one of the most underrated goalkeepers in the MLS. People are saying he should be top 10. I don't know about that. Saint Stuber. Our back four, we see Matt Hedges and Julio Cascante again, the two center backs, which one of my colleagues called them the Twin Towers, which is not really good way to. It's not. You got to work on that more, but like Lord of the Rings, the two towers of Austin FC. Our fullbacks, we see Zan Komanic, who I think he came back from a really bad ACL injury, but so far, 3 games in, he's putting a lot of work into it, and he deserves to start on the left side. Right back is John Gallagher, who has having, like, to be honest, a really sloppy season. He is filling in for right back, which was Nick Lima, and after that, he was traded to New England Revolution. This is the midfield. Again, we could start the same players. We see Joca Valencia on the 5, defending with our 2 center backs of, Julio Cascante and Matt Hedges. We could see Diego Rubio in the 10, and let me tell you, Rubio could break that back 4 of Philadelphia because he's a player who's really physical and, he doesn't give a flying fuck. He's really aggressive. We see how he was with Zardes against St. Louis. Those two linked up beautifully. Like we were seeing prime Zardes and prime Rubio again. And we see pivot players of, I think it'll be Alex Ring on the right. And we see we won't see Danny Pereira. Danny Pereira might be on the field, but he probably benched after that because he will be joining Venezuela next week for those international games. Our front 3, Zardes in the 9. There's no question about it. Our wingers, I would have to say Obrian on the right side.
2-0 Union. Despite everything that they went through this week, I think they sort of sort themselves out. And if anything, this is a match where they have to perform, or otherwise they continue to look like dummies.
Your prediction score 2-0 for Philadelphia. I say 2-2 Austin FC. Wager, if Austin FC wins, would you send a hat or a scarf? Scarf. If Philly wins, I'll send you an Austin FC scarf.
Oh gosh, scarf.
Yeah, I'll pick out a good one because at Q2, the Verde store, all the things are expensive without it. It's no question, but yeah, that sounds like a good wager. A scarf to see who wins, but if it's a tie, it's all, fair game.
It absolutely is. Listen, I'm so excited. I can't appreciate and say how much I appreciate and thank you for inviting me to talk about this. I know we had some technical hiccups, but it's been a joy. It's been a pleasure. I can't thank you enough.
And Jose, thank you again for participating and joining into this first ever preview match of both Austin FC and Philadelphia Union.
Of course, no, thank you again, once again. I always enjoy doing this, meeting more people, talking about soccer, and frankly, getting a chance to talk more about the Union. So I can't thank you enough. Thank you to the fans for listening. Appreciate you all. Feel free to follow me on Twitter, whatever. Just please reach out if you ever have a question or have any thoughts that you want to talk about the Union. I'm always open for chatting.
Will do. I have some, and my name is Vanilla Mixon17. This is Jose Nunez, and we'll catch you guys on the next one. And wagers on, whoever wins gets a free scarf. If not, our bank account is safe. All right, man.
Hey, thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Be safe, and feel free to tag me on this, and I'll make sure to share it once you got it cleaned up and whatnot.
Let's see if everything is safe. I'll say that.
Okay, thank you so much. Take it easy.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.